Yeah, that's right. I wear sunglasses now. I've been trying to up my cool factor lately. You know, get with the times, go with the flow, not give a shit about anything and all that. Yes, I'm aware it's completely off-brand for me. Shut up. I can be cool if I want to. You can be hip, you can be edgy, I can be relatable. This is the new me now. Deal with it. Pac-Man!
So, Pac-Man, right? I mean, everybody knows Pac-Man. Pac-Man? He's Pac-Man. He's arguably the most recognizable video game character. I could go up to anyone on the street, show them a picture of Pac-Man, and they'll recognize him. Excuse me, sir. Sir, do you know what this is?
Piece of paper.
Shit, he's right. Pac-Man was designed to be simple right from the start. The creator of Pac-Man, Toru Iwatani, noticed that arcades were filled with games where you just shoot things and thus appealed to pretty much exclusively men. This inspired him to create a game that would appeal to everyone. Simple yet addictive gameplay with cute, simple, and recognizable characters. I mean, the design for Pac-Man came from, well, you know that thing you do where you take the slice out from the pizza and it looks like Pac-Man?
Yep. That's it. Apparently it's such an obvious joke that it literally created the character.
So bam, it's 1980 and now we got Pac-Man everywhere and people are absolutely loving it. I mean, in just its first year, the game made $1 billion with a B dollars. I mean, I don't know how practical $1 billion is in quarters, but hey, at least people like the game. I think it's safe to say that Iwatani succeeded in creating a game that appealed to everyone. I mean, now Pac-Man is a household name. He's got ports to home consoles, a TV show, a cereal, a freaking song, which is still probably one of the funniest things ever. I mean, Mario didn't even get a song.
Yeah, that's right, plumber boy. You ain't got shit on a real game like Pac-Man. Throw a point on a scoreboard.
So now fast forward to the mid-90s and the era of 3D gaming. Every company started jumping on the 3D bandwagon, believing that going 3D was the future of video games. They were right, of course. It absolutely was.
But Namco also wanted a slice of that 3D pie. Of course, they had a slight major issue on their hands. They wanted to make Pac-Man 3D. And they wanted to go all in. They didn't just want to make a 3D maze game and call it a day. No. They wanted a platformer. But that's just the thing. How do you turn this into a 3D platformer?
This is the cancelled Pac-Man Ghost Zone, and let me say, thank God it was cancelled. This just looks clunky and not very fun. And the higher-ups at Namco thought so too. After seeing a demo for the game, they immediately pulled the plug and fired the entire development team, save for a few people, who they told to try again. Those people came back with Pac-Man World and, oh, that's better. This time, the game was accepted and shipped out for Pac-Man's 20th anniversary. Reception of the game was fairly positive. I mean, it didn't blow any minds, but most reviewers had mostly good things to say about it.
Which is honestly kinda incredible. I mean, again, turning this into a 3D platformer. And the fact that they were able to succeed in doing that on their second try is super impressive. As for my history with the game, I got nothing. For the longest time, this game eluded me. I mean, I grew up playing the second and third game as a kid, so I was desperate to play this game to complete the trilogy. But I wouldn't get to until a few good years later when I finally saw that it was on the PlayStation 3 store. I bought it, played it, and enjoyed it. Of course, I didn't find that the PlayStation 2 was backwards compatible with PlayStation 1 games until, like, yesterday. Yes, it's absolutely humiliating. But anyways, I bought the game for real off of eBay so I could finally own the trilogy physically. Now I just need a replacement cover for Pac-Man World 2. Don't ask, I don't know what happened. Anyways, to celebrate my incompetence and actually get my money's worth out of this thing, I'm going to be playing on the PlayStation 2. You know, it's been a while since I've actually used this thing. It's pretty old, I should probably make sure it still works. Yep. It works.
So real quick, let me break down the plot here. Robot Pac-Man captures real Pac-Man's family, so real Pac-Man has to ride a raft to Ghost Island to crash Robot Pac-Man's fake birthday party where he's pretending to be the real Pac-Man to hang out with the ghosts.
Excuse me?
I mean, obviously there were going to have to be some creative liberties when you're trying to make a story around Pac-Man. Again, they were working off of this. But even so, what? What even is this? Why would the ghosts go to Pac-Man's birthday party? I thought they were enemies. And Pac-Man is piloted by a ghost anyways. Why is he planning a birthday party in a robot Pac-Man suit? Here he is standing in front of a giant crowd of ghosts that all notice him at the beginning of the game, and here he is in front of the same crowd of ghosts at the end of the game, and they are all shocked. And either they're shocked because they actually think it's Pac-Man and they're all terrified, or they see that it's obviously not Pac-Man and are terrified of what an awful cosplay this is. Either way, Pac-Man's plan failed. Whatever that plan was. I'm just so confused. What does anyone have to gain from this?
I don't think anyone was supposed to think about the plot of Pac-Man World this much. Again, you gotta give credit to the guys that were actually able to come up with a real and creative plot for Pac-Man. It's just when you think about it for more than 2 seconds, it completely falls apart. Anyways, let's just actually get into the game.
So Pac-Man World has 3D movement with a fixed camera. The best comparison I can make is the gameplay of Super Mario 3D Land or Super Mario 3D World. Yeah, Pac-Man did this style of gameplay first. Throw another point on the scoreboard! The game is split up into sections, each having 3 levels and a boss fight. Each section also has a specific theme: pirate, desert, space, clowns, factory, and haunted house. The level design is pretty creative and adds gimmicks and enemies that fit with the theme. Even the ghosts get little outfits to fit with the theme too. And the levels are designed pretty well. There's a couple stinkers in here, like this one where you spend the entire time swimming at 2 miles an hour, but for the most part, the game is really fun. And another reason for that is that Pac-Man feels really good to control, and his moveset makes navigating the levels really fun. You've got the butt bounce, which lets you gain extra height, defeat enemies, and press buttons. And then you've also got the rev roll, which lets you launch yourself around, go up steep hills, and use these moving platforms. And I mean, there's also the dot throw, but it's completely useless. Just the angle you throw dots at is just too small, and there's no reason to use it when you could just butt bounce on an enemy instead.
You ever come across something that just makes you want to scream into a pillow and nearly pass out? Anyways, now I'm going to talk about the boss fights in this game now.
I think I might have found what they use in psychological warfare. They just force people to play these boss fights over and over again. These fights are either so easy I'm falling asleep at the wheel, or complete bullshit. Anubis Rex and King Alexian just throw so much shit and take so long to beat that they're borderline impossible, and ooh, just thinking about them makes me wanna. And then on the other hand, you got fights like the HMS Windbag, which is piss easy, or Clown Pre, which isn't fun, but it's also impossible to lose because all the clowns are racing just keep falling off the track by the end. And then there's Chrome Keeper, which is also insultingly easy, but it just takes so many hits to beat him. These boss fights are just awful.
Except for the final boss. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still pretty bullshit, but it is the best designed boss in the game. Still, it's honestly impressive how horrendous these boss fights are compared to everything else in the game.
The music in Pac-Man World? It's fine. There's some pretty good tunes here, but nothing that really sticks with you. Although one thing I do really like about the soundtrack is that it takes pre-existing songs from the early arcade games and remixes them to fit with the theme of the level. That is pretty cool. But even still, they only used like 4 songs to remix, which ends up making a lot of the music here sound the same. Again, not bad, but nothing spectacular.
So everything we've taken a look at so far is pretty typical early 3D platformer stuff. I mean, I could take any 3D platformer from this era, and most of the stuff I've said so far would more or less apply. Depending on the actual quality of the game, of course. But here's the thing. Remember Pac-Man Ghost Zone? Well, one of the reasons that game was cancelled was because the higher-ups at Namco just didn't think it did a good job of transitioning Pac-Man into a 3D platformer. They just didn't think it felt like Pac-Man. So that begs the question, what did the developers do to make sure Pac-Man World felt like a Pac-Man game?
Well, I would make the argument that it all comes down to how the game handles collectibles. See, the levels in Pac-Man World are littered with dots and fruit. Now, you don't have to get any of this stuff, but aside from them being really satisfying to collect, you also get score for it. And getting a certain amount of score will net you an extra life, which means there's actual incentive to increase your score counter. You can also find letters to spell out Pac-Man in each level, and if you do, you get taken to a bonus level where you can grab even more fruit. And then by the end of the level, you throw all of the fruit you've collected throughout the level into a slot machine, which can get you even more extra lives if you time it well. And there's a door with a Galaxian in each level that will take you to a maze that plays out just like the original Pac-Man, with even some gimmicks thrown into the maze to make it harder. And there's so much to do in these levels to increase your score, and in turn, get you more lives. It's probably the best use of a score counter I've seen in a platformer. So now that you're going out of your way to eat as much as you possibly can and get a high score, the game starts to feel like you're playing the original arcade Pac-Man, but as a 3D platformer, which is wild.
And it's fun, which is probably the craziest part above anything. This game absolutely could have just been a generic subpar 3D platformer from the mid-90s that everyone forgot about, like so many other games from this era. But it didn't. It turned out to be really good. Except everyone still forgot about it.
I just don't see anyone talk about this game. Or the other two, for that matter. And that's the thing, this game was good enough to get 2 more installments. And nobody outside the people that grew up playing them even know they exist. Which is weird, because again, this game is really good. It's not perfect, it's not mind-blowing, but it's not bad. It's just surprising that this game isn't talked about along with Super Mario 64 or the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon trilogies or any of the other classic 3D platformers from the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, despite not growing up with this game, despite not really having a lot of nostalgia for it, I still really enjoyed my time with it. Sure, it's got its issues, but in the end, they're not enough to take away from what is overall an enjoyable experience.
Who cares? Remember, I'm cool now. I can't just go around caring about video games. That's not cool. I gotta get with the times even more. I can't let anything distract me. I'm gonna be cool even if it kills me. No more I'm only human.